All right, so we're on the verge of World War III, obviously. If you guys haven't seen that, then you might be living under a rock. So I've been following Candace Owens for some time now, and I've watched her growth. How after the falling out she had with the Daily Wire, how she slowly but surely started coming around. And I was pretty sure Trump is a Zionist shill. I mean, it's obvious, a Zio shill. He might be a small hat boy himself. There's videos indicating that. But so yeah, now he's essentially come out and fractured his political base, and yeah, Candace Owens is not too happy, and he came out and attacked Tucker Carlson. And so Candace Owens just dropped a live stream, and I'm gonna go over it.
Cleo from the 90s, remember this?
You have questions. I have the answers.
Call me now for your free tarot reading.
Call 1-800-980-8637.
That's how I'm feeling lately with all of this stuff, which was so obvious. And I said a year ago that's now happening. I'm like, call me now. Because I just seem to keep accurately predicting these political events. But I have a confession, you guys. I'm not a fortune teller. And by the way, neither was Miss Cleo. She was actually a fraud. And me, I've just been paying attention to all of the obvious signs and the words that are coming out of Bibi Netanyahu's mouth. And now we're going to war. American planes are in the skies.
He's been saying it for how long? This has been the plan for how long to take Iran to war? This right here is the big enchilada. He's yeah. This is it. This has been the plan for a long time. The U.S. government has been hijacked by small hat boys, Zios, the whole blackmail, Epstein, all of that, completely hijacked. That's what the U.S. government is, and it's proving to be true now. And this time is bad. This time is bad because now we're looking at World War III.
In Iran. So buckle up, guys. Get ready to send your sons and daughters to the Middle East. And everyone who disagrees with that is apparently a jihadist, or as Trump is saying, a kook. That's what he's called, Tucker Carlson. Whose side are you on? Welcome back to Candace.
The difference between Trump and Tucker Carlson is Tucker Carlson is not a Zio shill or a small hat boy himself, actually. He's a real American, an actual American, standing for what's good for America. Unlike Trump. They probably got videos on him, to be honest. Epstein videos.
Here's the thing. I try to be optimistic about everything. Even, obviously, the state of play today, which it's hard to find the silver lining, but there is one. There is a silver lining. And I think it's that left and right, we can finally stop warring with one another. Because it all just seems to be the same. Both sides are serving the same master, and that's apparently money and war, the non-stop.
The master's the small hat boy. The small hat boy. No more avoiding it. It's clear now. Everyone sees it. It's out in all your faces and everyone's faces and all of our faces. You had to look. 5-10 years ago, you had to do your research and you were labeled a conspiracy theorist to be able to find out the truth. But now it's out in the open. Now it's out in the open.
War machine. Tim Dillon actually recently, I think it was yesterday, nailed it on the head, speaking about how the left falls for war and how the right falls for war and how you can manipulate both sides. Take a listen.
The American conservative movement, and they can be emotionally manipulated. The base of the American liberal movement can be manipulated in that way as well. All you have to do with that side is tell them that RuPaul's Drag Race can't do a show in Russia. And then they're in. So all you have to do is for the left make war about domestic politics. They throw gay people off the roof or whatever, even though do we have photos? I'm sure it's happened. How is it happening every day? And Are we going to help that somehow by bombing everybody?
Oh, God forbid. God forbid they don't want a perverse society. God forbid.
Now, yeah, try to throw them off the roof now. We bombed the building. Like, it's not rational, but that's how you get the left involved. You just use domestic wedge political issues to get them going. The left is crazy. The right is stupid. So the way you get the right involved is to just tell them they're going to be killed soon, that they're on their way to kill you. They're coming to kill you, and we got to kill them first.
Not just that. Unfortunately, with the right, they use false patriotism. They fly the American flag, they get everyone riled up, and then they send them off to go die. But the problem with that is you got to look at who owns the media companies. Who owns all the media companies that's getting you all riled up, lying to you? People know now. Now, especially now, small hat boys. It's the small hat boys.
We got to kill them before they kill you. Everything's preemptive. Everything's a strike. It's there, and you're in your cul-de-sac. You're like, Iran's going to get it.
I have to say, kind of got to agree with that. And we have to laugh at it because if we weren't laughing, we would probably be crying. It's just terrible. It's so cyclical. And I'll ask the question, show of hands, who 1 week ago can honestly say that they woke up terrified that Iran was going to nuke the United States of America?
Honestly, there's a better chance of Israel, okay, nuking America than there is of Iran. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely nobody did. But that's where we are at right now. Now, some are calling this a MAGA civil war, but it's not that, okay? Let's be frank. Let's be honest. This is not MAGA at all. Some people are calling it MEGA, Make Israel Great Again. I would actually argue that it's Make Israel Greater and that Trump just fractured his base. I believe he just fractured his base. Now, the Make America Great Again movement, as I understood it, it took very many bullets defending Trump and the Make America Great Again movement early on, back in 2017, 18, 19, because as I understood it, it was about the realization that Americans were last, frankly. That the elites had sold us out for never-ending wars. Effectively, MAGA was a declaration of war on neocons, right? On the people who always come up with a reason for us to send our sons and daughters overseas.
Here's a question. All these neocons, do you think they'd be so hyped up about going to war if they were on the front lines? Think about that. If they were on the front lines, imagine Lindsey Graham, okay? Let's put Lindsey Graham, this is the rule. We go to war, you're on the front lines, buddy. Infantry boy. You think he's going to be so talking as big as he talks right now? Nah, no, he's not.
Sending unaccountable dollars. We don't know where all the money went. While American jobs, American cities, even the American education system was in steep decline. A lot of the rhetoric at that time was aimed at our veterans, right? Remember, the fallen soldiers, how we had forgotten these brave men and these brave women, the veterans who came back and weren't treated with any respect, the people who went and never came back as they died in foreign lands. Yeah, that was what the MAGA movement was supposed to be about. America being pulled out of decline. Rhetoric also aimed at farmers and ranchers. Now, what was the mandate? Like I said, keep Americans out of foreign affairs. No war. We were actually so obsessed with not getting involved in war that this time the left and the right actually locked arms. It was the literal appeal of Tulsi Gabbard. She was hated by Hillary Clinton types, the Barry Weiss types, calling her a toady, because after having served in the military, she was extremely adverse to war. And we were like, yes, that's great. That works for us. And Trump, by the way, if we're taking a look at him, he had been extremely vocal in the past for years, by the way, before he even ran for president, about the disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deemed to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
All right. That dude is for sure either a small hat boy, he's a small hat boy, or they have him on tape doing naughty things. It's one of the two. We know for sure that I believe his first wife, okay, is Jewish. I know his daughter's Jewish, so his first wife must be Jewish because they passed the lineage down through the mother. And his daughter's married to Zio, small hat boy. So I mean, it's blatantly obvious. And now that we're about to jump into World War III, doesn't get any clearer. Doesn't get any clearer, does it?
Okay, and he kept up that 4 years later, that same rhetoric during the 2015 Republican presidential election debates. Trump came across as strong, he came across as truthful because he took a bold stance against the disaster of the Iraq War and all the lies that were told leading up to it. Take a listen to Trump.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Obviously, it was a mistake.
So
George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But
I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
All right. The war in Iraq, okay, was 100%, forget everything else, it was 100% in service of the small hat boys, okay? 100%. That's what it was about.
Yep, that is the Trump that I voted for twice, okay? So we elected him in 2016. We elected him again in 2024, more or less the exact same mandate. And like I said, we were excited, especially when Tulsi Gabbard became the director of national intelligence, right? And I'm not kidding when I say that 8 weeks ago in March, she testified before Congress that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear bomb. This was 8 weeks ago, you guys. Take a listen.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Okay, see, you know how you know that's true? Is because the previous leader of Iran, Imam Khomeini, when they went to war with Iraq, they were invaded by Iraq at behest of the West, for the small hat boys, okay? Because they overthrew the CIA-installed Shah. They had chemical weapons being used against them. And Imam Khomeini, the previous leader, wrote a fatwa saying, we do not use chemical weapons. It's against our religion, okay? Imam Khamenei, who is the leader now, is his predecessor. And he has said nuclear weapons is against, he wrote a fatwa. A fatwa means like a religious declaration. It's against the religion. We don't use them. We don't want them. We don't need them. They're barbaric. They're inhumane. We don't need them.
So what changed, you guys? What happened? Because now we're in this phase of gaslighting. We got all these IDF bots pretending that we're not America First for noticing that the messaging has completely changed over a couple of weeks. What actually changed overnight? And why did it change overnight? And the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. What Bibi Netanyahu wants is what he gets. He is the effective president of the United States and has been for a very long time. Okay.
Precise. He's the president. He's running the show. Obviously.
Okay. After 2 years of the media persistent in their messaging surrounding the horrors of October 7th, which, by the way, the IDF mysteriously elected to pull their troops away from the border on that day. October 7th, when mysteriously also the IDF chose mysteriously to ignore 2 warnings which came from Egypt that Hamas was planning an attack. They just said, you know what, we're going to ignore that. This is all facts, by the way. The also mysterious decision by the government to ignore a plan, which they had intercepted, a plan from Hamas to take 200 hostages. They had nothing about that. All of this leading up to that moment in October 7th, when for some inexplicable reason, the IDF was just not able to get any one of their very many soldiers to intervene on that attack for 2 entire hours. Utterly implausible. Don't believe me? Just ask Charlie Kirk.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially.
That other guy, Patrick Bet David, he's a worshiper of the dollar. And this guy right here, this buddy right here, is a worshiper of the Jew, okay? He says he's a Christian, but he worships the synagogue of Satan.
Actually, I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier. Right, the whole country is surveilled.
Kirk.
And so let me just kind of go through this.
You don't know.
We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
Questions that Bibi Netanyahu doesn't want to answer. By the way, I should add here that in addition, when the IDF finally did arrive after 2 hours, they were instructed via the Hannibal Directive, which is a military directive that they have, to shoot anything that moved, including Jewish people. So the Israeli government was instructed to not let anybody survive, to kill everybody because they didn't want anybody to be taken as hostages.
Precisely. They blew up their own people. They murdered their own people. The Hannibal Directive, and that's what they've been doing in Gaza. They've been targeting their own citizens, all right?
So, a lot of questions to be asked. How many of their own people did they kill? And why did it take so long for them to get to that border, which they mysteriously decided to leave vacant on that day? Now, Bibi, you would never know this because the Western media doesn't cover it, has been...
You want to know what a demon looks like? That's what a demon looks like. Right there. Demon in human form.
Facing a slew of corruption charges, trials for what he did or did not do on that day. He also mysteriously instructed his administration not to record the discussions that they were having, as is required by law. He wanted the transcripts from that day to be edited. Among very many other of the accusations of corruption, Bibi's cabinet coordinated verified lies and propaganda to be shared with the Western media. Okay, you can read all of this, by the way, in Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper, because you certainly can't read in any of the Western ones. And why is that?
Because they're all owned by the small hat boys.
Well, because they have their marching orders. Because virtually everything that we have watched and listened to over the last 3 years has been one long, unhinged propagandist effort in preparation for this war. AIPAC dollars spent, journalists funded to overreact to any and everything. I'm not kidding, right? So sensitive. Everything is now anti-Semitism. Everything is the Holocaust. Everything is Adolf Hitler. Every person that you knew that was in public, magically over the last 2...
Anti-Semitism, huh? These guys are not even Semites. They're not even Semites. They're white European converts. They're converts. They're not Semites.
...years got possessed by the spirit of Adolf Hitler. At least that's the version, according to Zionists. They became radical, and they became obsessed, and they became obvious to the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists like me, who told you the reason why they were acting this way. It was to prepare for war with Iran. I've been saying this, I'm not kidding, for over 2 years. Here's a clip of me saying it again just last year. Take a listen. Iraq, Libya, Syria. He says it, we do it. And now he's saying that Iran might kill President Trump. And if he does, then we just better all say we're going to war right now and not ask any further questions. Let me tell you something right now. Something happens to President Trump, I'm going to have a lot of further questions. And I'm going to make this statement to the American people. Please listen to me. Do not send your sons and daughters to fight in this planned war. They have been planning this war for years, okay? Do not believe them when they say they have weapons of mass destruction. They have been trying this strategy for years in various countries that they want war with, okay? Stop letting these elite oligarchs, very small group of them that benefit from these never-ending wars, allow you to be deluded into emotionality and irrationality and to allow your children to die on foreign soil. Not a single American daughter or son is going to die overseas for this planned war.
And that's the way it should be. That right there is the way it should be. No Americans should be dying for the small hat boys, all right? Which is what has been going on.
Call me now. Call me now, Miss Cleo. Like I said, it was just way too obvious. But, I did get something wrong there. The assassination attempt of Donald Trump, or maybe he did experience some sort of an assassination of his opinion, his soul, because I'm not sure what exactly happened to the Trump that I just showed you, the Trump that I voted for, because today he is singing a very different tune. If you've been paying attention to the last 24 hours, he's now attacking people.
Just something to think about. There's a statement by a great Freemason named Albert Pike, and he essentially said, when the public needs a hero, we shall provide him to them. Think about that.
That have remained consistent, that are standing against our involvement in the Middle East on the basis of the fact that regime changes have never worked there. He's attacking, of all people, Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, who we showed you on the show yesterday, was very gracious in his assessment of Trump, that he has a good heart, he's a good man. And here's why I don't agree with the Iran regime change efforts. He spoke about this very above board with Steve Bannon. Okay, a reporter caught Trump off guard at the G7 meeting. He's standing next to Keir Starmer, and they ask him to respond to something that Tucker never said. And here is what Trump says about Tucker Carlson. Take a listen.
Do you have any response to Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war?
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to...
Let him go get a television network so that people listen to him. And in other words, he has to be small hat boy approved for him to be legitimate. If he's not small hat boy approved, no one's gonna listen to him. But you know what? People are waking up now. People are waking up now, and it's beautiful to see.
In case you didn't hear him, he said, let Tucker Carlson go get a television network and say it there, and maybe people will listen. So I guess he's kind of trying to take a dig at Tucker Carlson, even though Tucker never took a dig at him, and implying that Tucker Carlson is no longer relevant because he's not on TV. And what does he do there? He just exposes himself for being out of touch. Really? You have to have a television network to be heard in America today? What next? Tucker Carlson, go get a fax machine? Go get a fax machine, Tucker Carlson. If you want people to read your messages. That's how I read that. Completely ridiculous. But he doubled down on this. He went on to Truth Social and he said, Tucker Carlson, who has maintained that we should not send our sons and daughters to die in another regime change war, since all of them have been a remarkable failure, at least for America, not for Israel. Trump tweets this, somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, if you're wondering, wait a minute, didn't Tulsi Gabbard literally just testify in March that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear weapon? Yeah, she did. And Trump has this to say about Tulsi Gabbard, who is his director of national intelligence. You can just dismiss what she says, according to Trump. Take a listen.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
They have to have Epstein videos on this guy. They just have to. There's no way that he just switches it up that quick and is not listening to any of his advisors or his base, and he's just going 100% with the Zios. They either got video on him, 100%, or he's a small hat boy himself. It's one of the two.
What is that, guys? You don't care what your director of national intelligence is telling you? You don't care? Because Bibi Netanyahu, called you up and said, yeah, we need a pretext for war. Like we always need a pretext where we're constantly bombing and killing people all the time. We're committing a Holocaust in Gaza. Could you just go out there and tell them that they were building a nuclear bomb? They weren't. And there's been no evidence of that outside of Bibi Netanyahu's trust me, bro, because I guess you have to come up with something to make people hysterical to believe that we have this never-ending right to murder human beings. That's what it is. It's a carte blanche that has been handed to Israel to continually murder human beings in the Middle East, to use American soldiers to effect regime changes in the Middle East at the benefit of no one but Israel.
Yeah, to them, we're all goyim. We're all goyim, okay? We're all essentially subhuman compared to them. They're the chosen people. By birth, they are automatically better than everyone else. So it doesn't matter. They can kill us. They can do whatever. We're like cattle. We're slaves. We're slaves to the mighty small hat boy.
Okay? While they go, oh, well, we kept our hands clean. We didn't get involved in that one. Yeah, if you think we're stupid and we're not paying attention to what the results of all of these wars have been, Bibi Netanyahu standing before Congress and demanding that we go to war with all these countries, and then we do it. And then they go, oh, we had nothing to do with that. We benefited, but that's just lucky. We benefited Syria. Yeah, we benefited Libya. Yeah, we benefited. That's just Iraq. Yeah, 9/11. But I don't know. We're just lucky that way. So right now, the lack of consistency, it is stunning to watch Trump do this. He's all over the place right now on social media. I mean, he initially signaled right away that America had nothing to do with what happened in Iran, that America was not going to get involved, that he was negotiating peace. Then he signaled that he didn't have any idea that the attack was coming, but also that he did know that the attack was coming. And now he's tweeting we. He's literally using we to describe what is happening in Iran right now. Let's just take a look at some of these tweets. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Oh, well, hey, yeah, we've got our planes in the skies. Okay, American troops might die, but USA, 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 because our stuff is so good and good looking in the sky. The big bad American planes are in the sky. What does he think? We're stupid?
Seeing Candace Owens' transformation is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see someone who is in pursuit of truth, and when they receive that truth, they accept it, and it transforms their being. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
And the people online that are trying to pretend that we are the ones betraying Trump for holding him accountable to his promises that he made to us when we voted for him, when we encouraged other people to vote for him, you're pretending that we're the ones that are problematic? This level of gaslighting that's taking place, you got Laura Loomer out there saying, screenshot every tweet that's against Donald Trump. Let me tell you something, sweetheart. You better start capturing Donald Trump's tweets that are going out right now, because they seem pretty against Donald Trump's ideas of yesteryear. That's all I'm saying. Everything that he said, every bit of BS that he called out, calling out the neocons, the people that were on the face of the Never Trump movement, he's now aligned with all of them. Everyone who hated him and called him Adolf Hitler, he's now locked arm in arm with them. Yeah, he agrees with Nikki Haley, the Lindsey Grahams. He agrees with every single person that we had to fight on his behalf to allow him to hold the office that he is holding. Yeah, he now agrees with all of them. And we're problematic. Now we are presumably the kooks. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And it should infuriate you to a certain level if you are invested in the idea that politics can be the answer. And the truth is that it can't. It really can't. And I have not been so stressed because, as all of you have noted, I have pulled away increasingly from politics and have been calling out the left and the right because it's become apparent to me that both sides lie. Am I a little surprised by Trump? Yeah, I am. Especially because it's just so soon and so fast and so obvious as he's talking about building hotels. The Trump hotel to be built in the Gaza Strip while there are literally children starving today there. What kind of a tweet is that? I mean, like, it's just, I get it that Miriam Adelson gave you $100 million. That's a lot of money. But man, have some dignity, man. Have a little bit of respect for the human beings that are still dying and have been being bombed for 2 years.
The biggest mistake the Zionists made was doing what they did in Gaza. They had been brainwashing the world for what? Since 9/11? However many years that was, 10, 15 years. How long has it been? 9/11? What's that, like 15, 20 years? And they've been doing all the brainwashing, and then now it's all blown up because of Gaza. They blew it up in 2 years. They blew up all of that brainwashing they did, gone down the drain, because now people see the barbarity, the barbarians that they are. It's been exposed. It's a huge mistake on their part, blunder, major blunder.
2 entire years they have been effectively carpet bombed, and you and Jared Kushner are out there talking about building hotels. And what an impressive real estate portfolio you might have if people began to see Gaza as an investment. All we have to do is murder these people. And what's quite stunning, I want to add to this, is you reflect on it, and I think there's something like 1 million adults in Gaza. With the amount of money that we have given Israel, other countries have given Israel, the amount of money that has been spent on the bombs that they are dropping, that are being manufactured on the behalf of Israel, they could have just gone to every Palestinian family and offered them money for their homes, right? Think about that. They could have just gone and said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million for your home, because this is a nice piece of real estate. But they chose to murder them. They are choosing to carpet bomb them, to gaslight the American people, and to refer to us as anti-Semites for noticing the Holocaust. They are choosing evil, death and destruction, while at the same time demanding that you recognize that these are God's chosen people. So did Trump betray his base? Did Trump betray his mandate? Well, Dave Smith definitely thinks so. This is what he had to say over on Breaking Points. Take a listen.
Yeah, Donald Trump, listen, man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of, corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is yeah.
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
It is.
And I did not vote for the party of John McCain, okay? And like I said, you're not going to gaslight me into believing that it was an act of my own betrayal and deceit, okay? And not that it just seems to be that every politician is always in line with whatever demonic ambitions that Israel has. It's nonstop war all the time, which they are demanding. Nonstop, okay?
All of it has been at Israel's service. All the wars. And by the way, Dave Smith, he's a small hat boy, but he's a cool small hat boy, all right? It's the Zionists. The Zionists are the problem here, all right?
And there's a lot that I want to say here about reflecting on these last couple of years and things that didn't make sense at the time, the attacks on Christ as King, the obvious infiltration that was taking place. And let's be very clear, the neocons won. The neocons won. They have infiltrated successfully the MAGA movement. And I don't know if it was ever, I'm questioning myself here, was it ever about the farmers? Was it ever about the ranchers? Was it ever about the veterans? Did they ever care about any of that stuff? Or is that just the rhetoric that you use to secure votes? And I want to answer that question because I want to get to this clip of Jordan Peterson that was floating around the...
It's all about securing votes. They don't give a damn. They're elites. They're super wealthy. If they have backups, if the economy crashes, if things happen with the economy, global economy, whatever, They have places they can go. They can move to a place with a better situation. They've got nuclear bunkers. They're set up. They're set up. They live in gated communities. That's why they don't care when you got all these people that are hooked on fentanyl that are dying in the streets. They don't care. They don't care. They live in gated communities. These people don't care. It's two classes. We're the peasants. The American citizen is the peasant, and they are the overlords. And they're not even the top of the top. They serve the real overlords, who are the small hat boys. I mean, you just look who owns everything. Just look. If you look hard enough, you'll always find a small hat boy at the top. BlackRock.
Internet, which I wanted to respond to while I was on maternity leave. But first, speaking of farmers and ranchers, if you have not yet heard about River Bend Ranch, it is time that you did. I am not kidding. Like, everybody's got their steak. I'm usually a sirloin person. How this powering the nation, 30 years of careful selection and breeding. River Bend Ranch developed beef and are raised without the use of how the cows are being treated. Thank you so much. I have never in my life had a better ribeye. I would never say that America, their beef is shipped to Candace at checkout because it was just another level. Also want to tell you guys about the Little Catholic. You know how much I love them. It's timely election committed to defining handmade. Candace Owens was right, Jar. It's meaningless because it was also obvious. You just had to be paying attention. Like, there was nothing noble about me seeing Iran around the corner. Bibi's insane. He's unhinged. He says everything, and they're bad at it. Like I said yesterday, Generation 9/11 has grown up. But there was an element of this that I couldn't quite understand, which was...
No, the Iran thing is obvious. Come on. The Iran thing is obvious. I mean, Bibi was... Bibi, the demon, he's been talking about it for the longest time. He was talking about it to Congress, I don't know how long ago, decades ago, he was talking about it. They've always been talking about taking out Iran. Iran's always been the head of the snake, all right?
This random incursion that we saw on the declaration of Christ as King. This was something that caught me so off guard, obviously, and how I somehow became the nucleus of this debate, a worldwide trend over Christ as King, an unhinged level of commitment to getting Christians to admit or to admit that, well, you can say Christ is king, but not if a Jewish person is offended by it. Like, sometimes it can be said and it's anti-Semitic. That was a bridge too far for a lot of people, and we could not comprehend where it was coming from. Now we can. I think we can. So I saw this moment which went viral while I was on maternity leave. Jordan Peterson went on to Jubilee. Jubilee is, and I wanted to give credit to Jordan Peterson. I didn't watch the full 2 hours.
Jordan Peterson's a Zionist sellout and a hypocrite. Who knows if he's even really Christian? He can't even answer the question if he believes in God. People ask him if he believes in God, he can't even answer that question. If you can't answer the question, do you believe in God? It's a very straightforward question. He thinks he's too intellectual. What do you mean believe? What do you mean God? What do you mean? Like, you're thinking you're too smart, buddy. It's the standard meaning of all those words. The standard, universal, accepted meaning of those words. Do you believe in God, sir? He can't answer it.
Of his Jubilee appearance. I know how exhausting Jubilee can be. You are surrounded by 20 people who hate you. And so I was willing to defer to that, to say, okay, well, he might have just been tired. But this clip, after he had played a part of a report alongside about 20 other Jewish people to declare that Christ is King is anti-Semitic, and now he goes and puts himself as a Christian debating 20 atheists. We got to pay attention to this. So he's coming up against one of these college students who's pressing him on what this college student believes is his Catholic faith, because why else would you sign up to debate 20 atheists as a Christian? Take a listen to this.
Are you familiar?
Just didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay. You're
their
familiar.
Doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a Christian or you're not.
I won't talk to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression
private.
I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Would have been the easiest ever question ever. I mean, to answer, are you a Christian? Yes, I am a Christian. Yes, obviously I should be a Christian if I am producing reports about whether or not saying Christ is king is fringe and anti-Semitic. I would hope that I would be a Christian if I was doing rounds on, as he did, doing rounds on the mainstream media, on the Fox News network, and sitting down with Joe Rogan to discuss this, Christ is king, to dedicate my time to that. It seems so odd, right? Like, I think I just felt like it was odd. And I say this again, I don't have any ill will towards Jordan Peterson. I would sit down with him tomorrow. If he sees this, sit down. I'd love to talk about this. And I considered what we are looking at. And the picture is now so clear to me that all of this, like, that became the litmus test, right? For these people who were so behind this radical effort to make Americans think you cannot question anything Israel does. The ultimate litmus test for that, to make sure that you had Christians in check, to make sure that the Spirit of Christ would not come over them.
Okay, all you Judeo-Christians, if you didn't know, the committed Talmudic Jews are not your friends. And all you have to do to find that out is look into the Talmud, and you're going to see what the Talmud says about Jesus, all right? Muslims are actually we're more aligned, okay? More aligned than you are with the Jews, all right? The committed Talmudic Zionist Jews. They believe Jesus is in hell, okay? God forbid. I mean, that's what they believe. And they believe many other things about Jesus and his mother, peace be upon them, okay? They are your enemies. I mean, okay, if that's what someone thought about, because I know there's a lot of Christians, right? They won't call Jesus Lord, all right? As a Muslim, we believe Jesus is the messenger of God. But let's say that's what you think, all right? That's your belief. That Jesus is your Lord. These people believe your Lord is in hell. If someone thought my Lord is in hell, for me personally, that's no friend of mine. That's no friend of mine.
A Christian would not say, hey, it actually isn't okay to murder innocent women and children for 2 years. And to justify this, it's unjustifiable. And so what is the last argument Israel uses? We're God's chosen. This was the litmus test of the God's chosen. Okay, do you get what I'm saying here? Like, we are so chosen that when it defies common sense, when it is so obviously wrong, so obviously murderous, so obviously immoral, and amoral, and it is so obviously demonic, what we're going to throw at you is, well, we're God's chosen. And so we need good little Christians to get in line. And the best way to test that is to tell them that, anti-Semitism is so crazy and so out of control leading up to this Iran war, which is unjustifiable and is murderous and is awful and is demonic.
The tribe of Israel was chosen at that time by God. Not for all time, at that time. God chose them, sent them a messenger, took them out of slavery, away from the Pharaoh where they were being oppressed, through the sea. They were chosen for a time, at that time. Not for all times. And not when they obviously act like psychopathic, genocidal maniacs. And that's one thing. And the other thing is these white Zionists, European Zionists, they are not even the original tribe of Israel. They're European converts. Khazarian, Eastern European converts. Not even the original tribe of Israel. They're not Semites.
That even saying Christ is king, you guys can say it. No, we're good with that. It's fine. but you can admit that sometimes that could be a little fringe. Again, I look at that, trying to declare that as a form of the dark tetrad or whatever it was, the dark triad, and psychopaths who are occupying the fringes are taking over to obtain power. I now look at that in retrospect and recognize that no, it was psychopaths that were trying to obtain power and were going through this ridiculous route to do it. And they were looking at Christians for a reason. Because if you are a real Christian, you cannot justify what is happening in Gaza. You can't. You know you can't.
If you're a real Christian, you can't befriend people who speak of Jesus the way, or they don't speak of it, they actually hide these teachings. They hide these teachings, and they keep the speech of it in their little synagogues, their little satanic synagogues. But you can't befriend someone who thinks that way of Jesus. If you're a Christian, come on, that's just basic logic. Basic logic.
You cannot justify giving this nation a carte blanche to annex, as they are about to do in the West Bank, at the behest of Miriam Adelson, for them to rape soldiers, not even to rape soldiers, to rape detainees who they say they can hold on to forever. You cannot consistently keep justifying what Israel has done and is doing. And that is what overcame me. It is obviously the Spirit of Christ to understand that you can't keep doing this. You can't murder children and put it in a box and say that that's what God wants. That's just stupid beyond anything else. That's stupid. Okay? So spare me your theology.
Absolutely.
Give me your common sense. That's dumb. It is dumb to suggest that murdering children is what God wants. And that's what they've been doing. And they needed good little Christians to get in line. So they need to figure out which ones wouldn't. And along came Candace Owens. Oh my gosh, we'll have to do a report. And then the other Christians will see they shouldn't declare Christ is king. Christ is king, buddy. We're saying it now. We're saying it forever. And we see what you're doing, because all of these people were also aligned with radical Zionism. And it's always been radical. The irony that they say people in Iran are fanatical, right? Oh my gosh, guys, you understand? This is how scary these Islamists can get. It's fanatic. The faith is fanatic. At the same time, justifying Zionism, which is at its core an ideology that says that because we're God's chosen, we can murder and take and steal whatever we want. It is at the same.
Absolutely, and you won't find any of that in Islamic teachings. None of it. But you'll find it in ink, written in their Talmud.
Time says the United Nations gave us this land, but also ignore the United Nations and the ICC because they now think that we're murderous and crazy. The logic is just, it's unbelievable. It's all over the place. They can't streamline it because none of it makes sense. Yesterday, Israel has a right to defend itself. Today, Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself because it's a preemptive strike. So they have a right to both strike and to defend themselves, and nobody can do anything unless risk being called an anti-Semite. I'm done with that. I'd like to wrap that party up. And by the way,
at this point, being called an anti-Semite should be it's like a badge of honor at this point. It's played out.
I want to say this to you guys because many of you are waking up and you are perhaps on the same journey that I have been on for the last 2 years, looking around and going, what is this? Because I used to be a Zionist because I just never understood really what they were doing. I was baptized by, the public school, the public school education, which is teaching us nothing but to be brainwashed. Hollywood movies, which, like I said, made us always feel like no matter what, make sure you defend Jewish people.
Yeah, that public school system really drills that Holocaust into our brains, doesn't it? 100%.
They could never do anything wrong. And what really became a turning point for me was recognizing that I didn't even know the beginning of the 1948 story. I had assumed that the world would have been moral enough so as, even if the United Nations and the UK determined via the Balfour Declaration that, hey, war happens and now we're giving this and we're establishing Israel, I had assumed that they would have done that morally, that they would have said, here is the money for the home that you have lived in for thousands of years, the property that you have lived in. Here is money for that, but you have to go. That's not what happened. I mean, the Bella Hadid story is stunning. These people came on ships holding up signs about World War II saying, please, we're refugees, let us into your home. And the Palestinians opened their doors to them. This is the story of Muhammad Hadid and Bella Hadid. Yeah.
And they jacked their houses. They jacked their houses. That's what they've been doing. They've been doing it since 48, stealing the land, jacking the houses, kicking people out of their houses, murdering people, driving over American activists in their tanks, and then laughing about it. Psychopaths. They're crazy.
The model, Gigi Hadid, he was an infant. His mother had just given birth. They allowed these refugees, these Polish refugees, to live in their homes as refugees because they wanted to help them following a world war.
Polish.
And then one day, they came back to their houses, and the doors were locked. They came home, the doors were locked, and guns were being held, and they were told, leave right now, or some soldiers are going to come murder you. Do you guys understand? Just go through that in your head. Wherever it is that you live right now in the world, imagine your family has lived on that land for hundreds and hundreds of years. That this has been your home for hundreds of years. And then you say, oh, you know what? The Ukrainian war is happening right now. I feel really bad. I'm going to allow a Ukrainian to live in my house, maybe here in Tennessee, live in my house. And you allow them and you share with them. And you do this out of the kindness of your heart, right? Because you are being taken over, perhaps by the Spirit of Christ and charity. And one day you come back to your house and the doors are locked, and those refugees that you let in are telling you that if you try to open that door, you are going to die. That is how the land was given to them. That is a fact. No one can dispute that. There was no money. There was no trade. There was no conversation.
And that is how Hamas came into existence.
They were effectively hijacked in their own homes. So the entire story of Israel has been immoral, okay? And it has really hinged upon our ignorance. We have all been ignorant, and it's time to stop. Because once you know the truth, now it is your burden to carry, okay? If you are truly ignorant and you support something, as I did, back when I was a Zionist, hitting the ground, talking about Israel, tweeting about Israel and how we must support Israel, then that's okay. That's going to be acceptable, because one day we're all going to have to account before our Creator. I have to hope that that is going to be acceptable, that it was truly ignorance and I believed that I was doing the right thing. But you now know this is not the right thing. And if you keep doing that, thing out of fear, all right, out of, I don't know, a jerk knee reaction, because you're scared of being canceled. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be you when you meet your maker. I wouldn't want to be you when you have to stand before the Lord and account for what you allowed to take place, because those children are dying. They are being burned to death. They had been carpet bombed. The access to those images, it's at your fingertips. And to the people who really do believe that God's chosen people rape, murder, destroy, pillage, lie, deceive, blackmail, Jeffrey Epstein, all of our politicians, buy, purchase, threaten, manipulate. Goodness, you may really want to crack open a Bible if you think that those are the signs of God's chosen people. Shoot presidents in broad daylight. Yeah, no. It shouldn't take you a theology course. You just take a little bit of common sense to tell you that no, that is not what God's chosen people do. God's chosen people were, as it was prophesied, Christ was going to come. God's chosen people, it was prophesied. And guess what they did when Christ came? They followed him. And at the moment that you followed Christ and became a Christian, you didn't become unchosen. Christians are the chosen people, because Christians, real Christians, not the ones who have been baptized in the liturgy of the Holocaust and are defending these demonic actions, but the ones who are willing to take being maimed and caricatured and smeared and lied about to say something that is true, which is that we're not pro-life sometime, okay? We're pro-life all the time. Life is precious, and murder is never okay. Yeah, I think that it should be abundantly obvious at this moment in time, at this moment in history, who God's chosen actually are. And it ain't the Polish Bibi Netanyahu. If there's ever been to me any person that I would say most clearly represents the synagogue of Satan, it would be that man and maybe Rabbi Shmuley.
Amen. Amen.
Who, by the way, they're all in locked up now, you know? Rabbi Shmuley. If you're a team Rabbi Shmuley and you think you're on the good side, you may want to reevaluate your life. And that's all I'm going to say. about that topic. Before I get to some of your comments, please excuse my rant. I do want to tell you more and remind you about Anyone.io. For years, I've been outspoken about protecting our freedoms online, and that is why I support yesterday. Use Anyone is a trick where in your now guys about actually going 80% people who leverage up any longer for terms and 2028. President Trump, please do not become Israel's.
I think that's a wrap on that. So yeah, buckle up, guys. World War III is incoming. It's incoming.